You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. I'm Shannon Hecht. Governor John Bel Edwards announced millions of dollars will be going towards helping the housing crisis in Lake Charles. After 2 major hurricanes and multiple natural disasters, housing is one of the key things holding that area back from getting on its feet.
The housing situation in Lake Charles is absolutely dire.
Affordable and sustainable housing is one of the greatest needs in Lake Charles, according to Mayor Nick Hunter. Now, with $11.3 million coming from HUD and state and local programs, low to moderate income families will get a chance to build their lives back. People can apply up to $50,000 to help rebuild their single-family homes. And even if people have already gotten grants, they can apply.
In many instances, those FEMA awards were not enough to really reestablish themselves in healthy, sustainable housing. We feel like this program is going to help fill a gap.
While the mayor and governor agreed this is a good step in the right direction, there is still a great need in the area. The governor recently traveled to Washington, D.C. to advocate for more disaster relief. $595 million has already been allocated to Southwest Louisiana.
The 595 is a good start, but it's not enough to meet the housing need if it all went to housing, and you can't even put it all towards housing based on the constraints that we have.
The applications have not launched yet, but it will be handled on the local level. The governor's visit to Washington to meet with the Louisiana delegation and the White House was also to ask for more relief aid for Hurricane Ida, as well as for the Southwest. Discussions around more aid are expected in Congress early next month. And Shreveport voters will have major decisions to make this December. 5 bond propositions focus on major capital improvements in the city. Shreveport Mayor Adrian Perkins says that the city desperately needs to upgrade its water, sewer, and drainage system. The city's director points to leaking equipment that's only getting worse. The mayor also stresses the importance of investing in public safety.
We've experienced a winter storm where a majority of our citizens, some went without water for 11 days. We've experienced an uptick in crime, and we know we need to invest in our water and sewer system, and we know we need to invest in public safety heavily.
Another bond proposal asks for $69 million for public safety improvements, with $27 million for a new police headquarters and $24 million for the fire department. Early voting has already begun for these proposals, and Election Day is December 11th. The Louisiana Attorney General is speaking out in hopes of stopping the Department of Health's proposal for COVID-19 vaccines to be required in schools. It would mandate students from K through 12 to take the vaccine.
On September 20th, Governor John Bel Edwards, through the Department of Health, proposed a rule to mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for all students in pre-K through 12th grade. Although it's just a proposal for now, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry is already threatening to legally challenge this new law if it's passed.
I have also written the legislature laying out instructions on how to curtail this latest overreach and abuse by the governor.
In the letter to the legislature, Landry says the vaccine mandate would infringe upon people's constitutional and civil rights. He says the proposed law is a bullying tactic to pressure parents and children to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
It is my hope that our elected representatives act in the protection of our medical freedoms.
Landry isn't just fighting statewide vaccine mandates, though. He's also part of 3 lawsuits against the federal government. One of those suits has been successful so far, putting a halt to a nationwide vaccine mandate that would require businesses with at least 100 employees to vaccinate their employees. Landry is also involved in 2 other lawsuits against President Joe Biden's vaccine mandate for federal employees, as well as a vaccine mandate for anyone who receives Medicare or Medicaid funding.
Whether it is an illegal mandate by the president or an overreach by the governor, our office will stand up to government abuse and bullying.
Landry says if the governor's proposal to place the COVID-19 vaccine on the list of required immunizations for students passes, that mandate will be legally challenged as well.
And to the president and the governor, coercion is not consent. Medical decisions for our children should be made by parents, not bureaucrats.
There will be an oversight hearing on December 6th with the House Committee on Health and Welfare to discuss the proposed mandate for students. The health care committees in both the House and Senate can vote together to reject the mandate, but unless the governor agrees, the mandate could move forward. And top LSU lawyer Winston DeQueer Jr. is being criticized over a comment made in front of a Senate committee last week. He said, quote, "When you do an investigation like we did and you make it public, invariably lawyers and other folk are going to take advantage of it and try to file lawsuits," end quote. He was referring to sexual misconduct lawsuits against the university, and attorneys suing LSU over Title IX reporting failures are calling his statement victim blaming, and they say it could prevent more victims from coming forward.
I was disappointed that that comment was made. I'm disappointed that it feels like they are still victim blaming. I would imagine that that has a bit of a chilling effect on someone that's thinking that they want to report.
The attorneys are asking to meet with LSU President Dr. William Tate to help create a model Title IX program with transparency and accountability. And after the break, we get an update from Washington, D.C. on what is next in the battle over the Build Back Better plan. And President Joe Biden takes a major step to try and reduce gas prices.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Congress returns tomorrow with a long list of tasks before the end of the year. While Democrats are celebrating the House passing the Build Back Better plan and the bipartisan infrastructure bill becoming law, Congress has a tough few weeks ahead. Washington correspondent Rashad Hudson reports.
We have to ensure that we are fully funding the government.
Congress has until December 3rd to pass a government funding bill, something Virginia Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger calls vital to the nation's economic security.
There's quite a few really pressing issues that deal with the very functioning of our government.
In the meantime, Congress has until mid-December to raise the nation's debt limit to avoid disruptions to key government services like paying service members and Social Security checks. But New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney says unless Democrats scale back government spending, she won't support an increase.
I'm concerned about something like raising the debt ceiling for anything that looks like the Build Back Better plan.
Indiana Congressman Larry Bouchon agrees it is up to Democrats to raise the debt limit.
So the debt ceiling is going to have to be raised, but the Democrats are going to have to raise that, and they're going to have to find a way to get it raised.
While this is happening, the president's Build Back Better bill will be before the Senate, where it could see changes from moderate Democrats.
We expect some additions, some subtractions, and so then the bill will come back to the House.
But fellow Democrat Jimmy Gomez doesn't want to see any significant shift.
It's about defending what we negotiated so far and then get it back to the House in a piece that we can actually vote and support it.
The Build Back Better Act is not expected to get any Republican support in the Senate. Reporting in Washington, Rashad Hudson, back to you.
Well, President Joe Biden is taking a major step to try to lower gas prices for the holiday travel season. The White House says the U.S. will be releasing 50 million barrels of oil from the nation's strategic reserve to help offset a surge at the pump. Two of those storage sites are here in Louisiana, one near Lake Charles and the other between Alexandria and Baton Rouge. Republicans say this is a problem that Biden created.
Today we're launching a major effort to moderate the price of oil. This coordinated action will help us deal with a lack of supply, which in turn helps ease prices, high gas prices. This is a problem.
This is only a temporary solution. The White House says it will continue to put pressure on OPEC and oil companies to lower their prices. And up next, LSU is once again in the spotlight for Title IX investigations, this time after the school's attorney made questionable comments in a Senate committee. Advocate reporter Andrea Gallo sat down with me this week to talk about her investigations into the allegations. More after the break.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Recently, there has been deep investigations into Title IX reporting and transparency with leading universities across the state, mainly LSU. And I'm joined now by a reporter who has deeply looked into this, Andrea Gallo of The Advocate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
Andrea, this really spurred from the Senate Select Committee on Women and Children last year, where they were talking to students, and they passed sweeping legislation for universities to have to report this more in depth. And you've done some investigations yourself, so where did this where was this born from? You know, how did this legislation really come to be from what you've found?
That's right. Well, we've been at this for about a year by now. About a year ago was when all of the first allegations started coming out about LSU mishandling Title IX complaints, specifically those involving athletes. USA Today published a huge investigation about it. And ever since then, there has just been kind of more and more allegations coming out, more and more stories about ways that LSU has dropped the ball on all of this. And last spring, the Legislative Senate Select Committee on Women and Children started holding hearings about it. They were furious over the allegations that were being made. As you said, they passed sweeping Title IX legislation to try to clean things up. But the problem is that even though they have passed legislation and even though LSU has invested a lot of new money into taking care of these problems, there were still so many years whenever the Title IX program at LSU was just completely deficient. And so all of the problems that happened during those years still have not necessarily gone away, and we still don't necessarily know the extent of them.
And I know you've spoken with some people who are victims of these situations who have, been let down by their school. From when you've spoken to them, what are some examples of, of how LSU has maybe dropped the ball that led to this legislation?
Sure. So the thing that we hear time and time again from some of these students, most of them women, who are alleging sexual assault, sexual harassment, domestic violence, anything like that, is that they have gone through this sort of incident and then they try to report it to either a professor or a coach or some sort of supervisor, and then that person does not follow up in the way that the student would hope for, or that that person tells them something like, this isn't that big of a deal or whatever. There was a huge allegation last year that a football player, Drake Davis, had texted an LSU athletic department official, Verge Osbury, saying that he had just hit his girlfriend. Mr. Osbury did not call the police. He did not call Title IX. He didn't follow up on it. And those are really significant allegations that LSU has had to try to deal with over the past year.
Right, and one of your stories that really shined a light on this issue was about that French student. So what was kind of the biggest eye-opening thing for you as you wrote that story over several months?
Yeah, well, I think that there has been an understandable tendency among the public to put this in the realm of sports and to say, this is all involving student athletes and coaches and athletic department officials. But that was a story that really highlighted that these problems are campus-wide. This didn't involve sports at all. They involved a graduate student from France. And the thing that really kind of struck me as I was looking through all of the information about it and kind of creating a timeline of events was that time and time again, people were reporting this man, Edward Despelange, for various forms of sexual assault or sexual harassment, and yet he just continued to have access to all sorts of students on LSU's campus. He was arrested in 2018. He still came back to campus. He still was in contact with students. And he continued to have that contact really until he fled to France, not due to the LSU situation, but due to the other criminal case that he was already facing.
And that case is one of the handful of litigation that LSU's lawyer brought up at the Senate Select Committee last week. And what he said in that committee has also kind of stirred things up a little bit. So let's talk about that and what he said. I know you have a copy of the letter that some of the lawyers have sent. So what's kind of going on there?
That's right, Shannon. So last week, the Senate Select Committee held a hearing, and LSU's general counsel, their top lawyer, Winston DeQueer Jr., told the committee that he expects LSU might face a few more lawsuits over Title IX issues within the next year or so. But instead of taking any real responsibility for the problems that have occurred on LSU's campus, Mr. DeQueer, he made a statement kind of saying that lawyers were taking advantage of LSU releasing a Title IX investigation last year. And he said lawyers are trying to recruit people to file lawsuits against LSU. And he kind of put LSU in the position of being unfairly sued and attacked by these lawyers. And those comments did not go over well at all with the lawyers who have filed these sorts of Title IX lawsuits against LSU. And they released a letter this week to the Senate Select Committee basically saying that Mr. DeQueer's comments were indicative of why LSU has faced these sorts of problems for as long as they have, because they said that his attitude was one of not supporting survivors, not believing survivors, and not believing that they should have some sort of access to justice through the legal system.
And that committee now has the letter, and they're expected to meet again probably in January. This last meeting was sort of a check-in to make sure they were following this new legislation, right? So they said that they're going to have major reports, all of the universities and schools across the state. And they also have to present this to the governor, is my understanding. So what are we kind of expecting to come from those major reports that they're supposed to be giving?
All of the universities in Louisiana, or at least all of the public universities, are now required to report all sorts of information about Title IX on campus that they never previously were reporting to any sort of supervisory entity. So LSU, for example, just finished their first kind of major report along these lines. And there are, really in-depth breakdowns of how many Title IX complaints were filed during this quarter, how did we handle each of them, is there investigations ongoing into any of these complaints, did the students say, I don't want an investigation, I just want access to some counseling and some supportive measures. So all of these sorts of breakdowns are included in those reports. And it's really interesting, as a member of the public now, for us to be able to see the types of things being complained about on campus and how the universities are handling them. And one kind of interesting aspect of this new reporting is that the experts in this field actually say that when a university has very few Title IX complaints or is reporting very few Title IX cases, that is a sign that something is going wrong there. They say that it's actually, if you have a full and robust reporting system, which I think all of the universities in the state now are hoping to have, you will see a lot of reporting. You'll see a lot of students coming to you because they do feel comfortable and they do feel like they'll get a fair investigation. Whereas if you don't have much of a reporting system, that can be a sign of trouble. So just one thing to keep an eye on as these reports come out is just because a university maybe has the most Title IX complaints out of everybody, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the most sexual misconduct on campus. It maybe just means that they are doing a better job of logging and reporting it.
All right, Andrea, well, we will watch for those reports in the new year and see kind of how our schools shape up. But thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Well, looking ahead to the coming week, Louisiana State Police Superintendent Colonel Lamar Davis will be speaking at the Baton Rouge Press Club. He plans to comment on his efforts to reform the department since taking the position a year ago. Also this week, the Joint Insurance Committee will meet to talk about the impact of Hurricane Ida on policyholders. And the Redistricting Roadshow is making a stop in Covington on Tuesday for people to share how they want to see legislative maps redrawn in the new year. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Shannon Hecht, and I'll see you next Sunday. Be kind and stay safe.